Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of 13 Rings, an NFC East podcast. I'm your host, Lucas, with Mal, Maurice, and Earl. Guys, we recorded last Wednesday night. Then a whole bunch of news dropped as soon as, the next day, in the next couple of days. It was crazy. So, we're going to break that down. And then, of course, as promised on social media and our last podcast, we are going to go over our all-time list. Well, actually, we got Pro Bowl stuff too, but we'll leave that to Mal. In the meantime, let's go ahead and start about this. I think who is first? It is Maurice. Maurice, take it away, bud.
Yeah, it's a pretty quiet week for the Eagles. Nothing involving the coaching staff or any player movement. But one bit of news, and I'm actually shocked that this news came out before the Super Bowl. You would think it would be like the week after, but it was announced that the Philadelphia Eagles will play their first game of the season, which is a home game, on Friday in Brazil.
Which is that's like the day before Labor Day too, right?
The opener.
The weekend before Labor Day. Sorry.
That's so weird. Friday.
It is. Because you got to remember the opening game is Thursday, so there will be a game the next day, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles, and they will host the game in Brazil.
That's interesting.
I wonder if it's going to be too hot for them.
What's the temperature like in the fall?
Well, remember they're
summer,
in the southern hemisphere, so is it southern or southern hemisphere? So their seasons are switched, right? So it should be
no idea.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So it should be like the beginning of spring there, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hope I got the hemispheres right, or I don't know. Anyway,
no, you're right. We're northern, they're southern.
Okay, so isn't there like an eastern and western hemisphere, or am I getting that mess? I don't know.
Just the two.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. All right, so yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah. I think the players are going to like being in Brazil, maybe a little bit too much. I'm going to be curious to see how that goes. But it is an interesting venue for sure. You know, they have football out there, but not the same type of football, obviously.
Yeah, not the same type of football, but we know what the NFL is doing. They're trying to expand their brand worldwide. They have games in England, so this is just
Germany as well.
Germany as well. Yeah, so they're just trying to expand the game as much as they possibly can. I get it. It sucks for Eagles fans because that's a home game. I don't know how that works. Do they get a refund or for that particular game if they're a season ticket holder? I'm not a season ticket holder, so I don't know how that will work, but
how many people are going to actually fly out? How many Eagles fans are actually going to fly out to see that?
I mean, Eagles fans do travel well, but
that's a different continent, good sir. Different continent.
You need a passport for that. Yeah. So we'll see, but it's just weird. It's really weird, especially on Friday. That's just so odd to have a game on Friday unless it's like Black Friday. But if the NFL had it their way, they'll have a football game on every day of the week. So we'll see how Eagles fans travel. We travel well, but we'll see. It's just odd. It's really weird. A Friday and in early September, and it threw me off when I heard that breaking news. But we'll see how it goes. I think they're going to play the Packers.
No, I think it's the Panthers.
You think it's the Panthers?
I'm pretty sure.
I think the Panthers are scheduled for a game in England or Germany, one of the two.
I mean, could be more than one.
True. That would suck for them to have to travel in different continents twice. But
yeah, let me check. Okay, they're gonna play NFL, Eagles, and I'm trying to find I'm looking on NFL.com, but I can't see the other team.
They haven't announced the teams or the schedule as of yet.
But they did
Well,
announce.
so they said that the Eagles will join the Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings, Jacksonville Jags, Carolina Panthers as designated teams in 2024 international games.
Yeah, so the Panthers are designated for their own game.
Okay.
So it's looking like the
It
Packers.
doesn't look like they have announced. Wouldn't it be something if it's like a divisional game?
That would suck.
I don't think
Agreed.
they'll do a
Yeah,
divisional
I
game.
don't think they would do that because it would be bad for ticket sales.
Yeah, you don't want to make a fan base that upset.
It's putting the home team in a deficit because divisional games, the home field advantage doesn't make a difference.
Absolutely.
So my guess is, I'm guessing right now. I'm gonna put my money on Eagles Packers week 1, which is a good matchup, by the way.
Yeah, look, I mean the Eagles. Not the Eagles. Sorry, the Packers. They definitely had a good showing in the playoffs. So, no offense, Earl.
I could care less.
Earl's over it.
Earl's over it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And just a quick Google search, the most popular team in Brazil, the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, that's weird. But okay. We can dig with it.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Cowboys, Earl.
Alrighty. Yeah. As Lucas can contest to, they wanted to be like us. So, yep. Dan Quinn is no longer the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator.
You steal my thunder here, man.
You're gonna have your time. You're gonna have your time.
Okay.
Dan Quinn is no longer the defensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys. And not only that, DB's coach, Joe Witt Jr., is no longer with the Cowboys. So that brings Dallas to attention and filling their defensive coordinator spot as well as their DB coach spot. I believe Al Harris might get an upgrade to be the new DB coach for Dallas. The defensive coordinator situation, right now they've finished up a couple of interviews with Ron Rivera, Mike Zimmer, and a new name has added to the fray, Rex Ryan.
Ooh, that's an interesting name.
Yeah, I was really interested when I saw that today.
Yeah, that caught me off guard a bit. And his brother was a defensive coordinator with Dallas.
He wasn't he?
Yep, Rob Ryan.
Bob Ryan.
Yep, Rob Ryan. And this time around, whichever DC coach that they want to go with, I don't want it to be Ron Rivera because I've seen what he was able to do with the pieces he had in Washington, and they had a lot of draft top 1 players and really didn't do much with them. Next thing you know, their pass rushers got traded away. And
I mean, you ain't wrong.
He had the pieces to do some damage, but failed to accomplish fulfilling the mission. So,
well, Earl, let me say another reason why you shouldn't want Ron Rivera. Because if you get Ron Rivera, you're most likely getting Jack Del Rio as well. And you need to avoid him like the plague.
I was getting to that point. Avoiding them like the plague. But my pick, I would like to see Mike Zimmer as the defense coordinator with the Cowboys. The one reason is that the lack of discipline on the defensive side, that gets thrown out the window because Mike Zimmer, he's that tough, hard-nosed coach that can get in the players' faces. There's no favoritism dealing with him, nor that stuff of undisciplined acts by pre-snap penalties. That will no longer exist. He would bench a player if that were to occur. And I just think they need to shape that to bring him in to be able to fix the defense and actually utilize traditional linebackers, not these silly hybrid safeties playing linebackers, old school traditional linebackers. And Rex Ryan, he hasn't coached in about 14 years. So I'm thinking, yeah, he could be the new defensive coordinator for Dallas, but I think there's more to it if he does come in. where possible theory that even though he'll be the defensive coordinator, Mike McCarthy's on a 1-year deal. There's a possibility maybe Rex Ryan could tip his hat in to be the next head coach of the Cowboys. And
but real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to say, but real quick, that's a great point to add to, because if Mike McCarthy is a one or potentially a one and done, why would any defensive coordinator come in here knowing that they could only be here for a year?
I guess the upside is that they might be the person in waiting too. They could take a gamble like Eric Bieniemy did.
Yeah, that didn't work
out for Bieniemy, but it's a gamble that some coaches are willing to take, and sometimes it pays off.
And with the Joneses, they're in the speculation of going all in. I really have to see what they mean by going all in. All I can see it as being the smoke and mirrors. But if they're able to get someone in to fulfill that spot as defensive coordinator, more than likely it's going to be on not a long-term deal, but if it's someone that fits the caliber of what they're looking for, it's a possibility. I mean, we haven't seen much dealing with Bill Belichick nor Mike Vrabel. For all I know, they could just be sitting out waiting to see what the next hot commodity is and see where the pieces will fall. I'm just saying, Rex Ryan, with his name coming up out of nowhere, then that shows that he really wants to work with the defense, or he's looking for something bigger than that to go along with just getting his foot in the door. So hopefully you'll get an answer later this week, probably before the Super Bowl. Knowing how Dallas run, they want to try to build ratings towards it. I can see Mike Zimmer, because he used to be the defensive coordinator with Dallas from 1994 all the way to 2004. So there's history with him being in the organization, but also him having head coaching success, as well as just taking a year or two off to just kind of revamp himself. And I really think he would be a solid fit for Dallas, but more logical from what I think the Jones might do. They may end up doing Rivera, because Washington is still paying off his contract, and they will do whatever they can to get a bargain deal in which bargaining their coaches along with their players, which I think is pathetic.
We will certainly see what happens there, Earl. Definitely keep an eye on that moving forward. But I think it's time for Mal to talk about some of the new changes that are going on with the Giants.
Yeah, so we actually had a lot happen this week. Well, first and foremost, we have a new defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen. He was previously with the Titans, which I don't really know how I feel about this hire yet. I kind of have to see how he does in the upcoming season. We'll see. But we also had some in-house promotions, which were relatively interesting considering all of the drama behind like Dable's coaching and him screaming at coaches and people apparently not wanting to come to the Giants. But some of the interesting promotions we had was that OC Mike Kafka was added as the assistant head coach. So he's got a little promotion there. I think that's mainly to kind of make him more appealing for head coaching jobs for next year, or I don't know, it could be settling the dust with Dable. We shall see. We then had quarterback coach Shea Tierney added as a pass game coordinator. So he got a little promotion there. He's actually a pretty good quarterback coach. We were thinking about, like, if Kafka left, a lot of the fans wanted to promote him to OC. And then we have our defensive backs coach, Jerome Henderson, and he's also now the pass game coordinator, which is good for him. And I kind of figured because he was in conversations to be promoted for our defensive coordinator position after our 2 top picks fell through. But obviously we got Bowen. He seemed to have impressed our GM, so that works. And then we also hired Charlie Bullen as outside linebackers coach and Zach Kerr as defensive assistant. I don't know much about them. Looking forward to see what they kind of can do there, considering those are the guys.
I think one of, if not both of them, came from the Titans as well.
Oh, yes, you're correct. They did come from the Titans. So it seems that Bowen's bringing over some of familiar staff that he knows. But they're the guys replacing Wink's defensive assistants that were fired and ultimately left to Wink leaving. So I'm interested to see what they do. You guys got any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you guys. I mean, Tennessee's always had a solid defense, so I don't think they've ever been spectacular, which is kind of surprising that it's Vabril, but like.
Yeah, they were middle of the pack, I think, for the past few years, around like 17th.
So it'll be interesting, but it is a fresh take. You're not going to be blitzing all the time now, which I'm sure will be good for you guys.
Hopefully, we can use Kayvon correctly now.
Yeah, I was about to say that's the other thing. Like maybe they'll use Kayvon correctly. I also think part of Tennessee's problem is they didn't have elite defensive personnel either. So you guys actually do. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I like the moves. I don't think they're bad moves. I'm glad that somebody from Tennessee got a job, to be completely honest.
No, I'm really just indifferent on the defensive side moves. We'll see how that goes.
You're just ready for the draft, aren't you, Mal?
I really am. I'm just tired. I'm tired.
I bet. All right, and that comes to me here, which I'm excited to talk about because you guys I was about to say, you guys left me a lot of time to talk about this, and I feel like we are going to spend a little bit of our podcast on this. So, literally the next day, after I said repeatedly that I did not want Dan Quinn, of course, the opposite happens. I get Dan Quinn.
Of course.
But, over the next couple days, after hearing people from within the organization, hearing his press conference, I watched his whole entire press conference, which was over an hour long, by the way, guys. It was over an hour long, and I watched the whole thing. Here's what I will say. I am cautiously neutral about this hire. Can't say that I love it, because I look at the track record on the field. However, in terms of being the right type of person to help lead this organization, I am excited about that. I think he's a great person. I think he's a good person. So I'm hoping that he's learned from past mistakes. And he talked about learning about past mistakes in the press conference. We'll see if that's true or not. But look, if we can get into the playoffs on a regular basis, even if he fails in the playoffs, if we can just get there, that's a very good start for a franchise that has struggled to get to the playoffs for the last almost 30 years, pretty much.
Absolutely, Lucas. I was going to say that.
So you got to keep about that. And now we got to get to his hires, because he was very quick on the gun. Earl mentioned it. Joe Witt Jr. was hired as a defensive coordinator. Played his dad coached at Auburn, right, Earl?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been in the coaching ranks. He ended his college career as a graduate assistant because injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's been in the coaching ranks for a long time. I'm really interested to see what he can do. Sounds like a detail-oriented guy. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, Earl. So I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see where this goes. And then instead of retaining Eric Bieniemy, which, by the way, when asked about, Dan Quinn was very gracious. He said that he talked to Eric, was very appreciative of what he did, wished him the best of luck, but he was not going to be on this coaching staff. I thought, and me and Maurice talked about this on the phone last week, that they were going to go for Chip Kelly, which was the early news. And then things fell through between the Raiders and Cliff Kingsbury, and then it was almost less than 24 hours by the time that Cliff was hired by the Commanders. And I don't know how I feel about that one, because when he was a head coach in the NFL, he made marginal improvements first 2 years as head coach offensively, but then kind of staggered, never had an elite offense. Granted, part of that was due to injury to, what's the guy's name in Arizona again? Kyler Murray. Yeah. So he has had success grooming quarterbacks, though. We talk about Patrick Mahomes. We talk about Kyler Murray. We talk about, was Baker Mayfield a part of that group? I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, of course, now Caleb Williams. So he knows he can work well with quarterbacks. The question is, can he run an offense? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, that's
but I will say this. Dan Quinn said that in his press conference, he hires people, or he's interested in working with people that he struggles against coaching himself. And I always find when a coach says that, that's a good thing. It's a good thing because they can point out the head coach's weaknesses and also make it difficult for other people. So what were you guys going to say to that?
Well, my only question is, we can see why Kingsbury left the Raiders for the Commanders.
Now, why do you say that? I know why you're going to say it, but I
you
it.
know I'm going to say that. I think they might move up and get Caleb.
Well, that brings us to our last point here about, does this hire with OC impact the Commanders' trade position, or the draft position? Look, I don't want to give up. And you guys know me. I'm a Jaden Daniels guy. That's who I want in the draft if we go for a guy, right? I think Caleb Williams is a bit of a diva. It is interesting that you bring up Caleb Williams though, because when
he's
Kingsbury
definitely a diva.
Yeah. Because when Kingsbury got hired, Caleb posted on his Instagram story, congrats, dog. Which, okay, could mean nothing, could mean something, who knows, plausible deniability, right? Look, and I get that Caleb is a local DC kid, but just all the things, all the extra stuff that I'm hearing from his family, around his circle, just I don't like. Like a guy that can come in and do the work. And Jaden Daniels has proven he can improve and that he's willing to do the work. Now, this might be all a moot point if Chicago is dead set on drafting Caleb Williams. This is all a moot point. It doesn't matter. But if they aren't, well, that's where things get dicey. And I'm sure we'll talk about it later in future podcasts. But I don't want to spend too much time on that. Because this episode, as promised, before we're going to talk about our all-time list. But before we get into that, yes, that is a tease, of course. Mal's going to talk to us about the Pro Bowl because Mal got the special honor of being at the Pro Bowl with one of her best friends and her boyfriend, right, Mal?
Yes, it was so much fun. Weather was perfect. And I'll say this, Camping World Stadium is awesome. Do I think it could hold like a regular football game? Probably not. But it's a pretty nice stadium, and they really did a great job hosting it. It was a lot of fun. We got to watch the Gridiron Gauntlet. We got to watch the Tug of War, and we got to watch the flag football game. A lot of the other skills practices were closed off to the public, so we didn't get to see any of those. But what we did get to see, it was 3 hours. It was from 3 to 6, so it was pretty cool. Everything was fantastic. The only thing that I would say that was bad about it was that it was just so crowded. There were so many people there, which I totally understand because when they had like the regular football game, it was still like the same size crowd. But the only thing I would really change about the whole Pro Bowl experience is making it a little more personal for the players because the fans just weren't involved at all. It was mainly just like watching them do skill events, which it was fun because everyone was like actively involved. Like, we were cheering for the NFC, cheering for the AFC. People were like getting into it. It was actually pretty funny. And it was actually funny to watch like Cowboys fans rooting for Dexter Lawrence and like Giants fans rooting for CeeDee Lamb. Very funny. And even Jalen Hurts, he had like the biggest ovation when he was announced. The whole crowd went crazy for Jalen. Yeah, right on. But yeah, no, it was awesome. I don't really think they need to change much. I think it's great for the safety of the players. But like I said, just a little too crowded. I wish they would sell maybe a little less tickets to the event. But other than that, fantastic experience.
Before I chime in, Earl, Maurice, do you want to add about what you would change to the Pro Bowl as it currently is constructed?
I wanted to go back to playing football, not flag football.
At this point, Earl, we're not going to get that anymore. It's too much of a risk, and when players get hurt, it messes messes with their contracts and all that. And the days of the Pro Bowls from the 80s and 90s and the 2000s are gone, man. Sad to say.
You know what? I'm going to agree with Earl. I want it back, but I would keep the skill challenges too. And here's what I'll rebuttal to that. I almost guarantee you, almost every fan who was on social media preferred watching the play of Sean Taylor, rest in peace, making that hit on that kicker versus any play that you saw from the Pro Bowl this year?
Well, I mean, yeah, that sounds nice, Lucas, but it's like the NBA. You know, players are only going to put as much energy and competition and competitiveness into the game as they see
Then
fit.
give it financial incentives. That's what they did with the in-season tournament in the NBA. If we're using that as an example, make it financial. Give the players a small pot to win for.
It has to be a large pot, Lucas.
Well, I'm saying like maybe like what football players, they don't get paid nearly as much. Maybe each player gets, I don't know, $25K.
Well, NBA players are getting what? Like 50. $500,000 for All-Star game?
Well, 50. Well, there's 400 and some odd players in the NFL versus just.
No. I mean the winners of the NBA All-Star game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the All-Star game is now for the NBA in terms of pot, but like my point is like make it financially incentive. If you want the players to play hard, then you got to give them a reason to play hard. The pride of doing it isn't just good enough anymore, which is a shame and is a bigger, speech to our society now. But like, look, but I will say this. I think the Pro Bowl should be a 2-day event. Because I did not like going back and forth between like quarters of these flag football versus events. I think one day should be the skills challenge stuff, and the next day should be the game.
Well,
that's what I think.
Well, networks will love that.
If you want to have a flag football game, copy the NBA and make it a flag football celebrity game.
Well, any content is good content.
You could still do that. Yeah. It's just with the players that aren't playing in the big game, this is kind of like their last chance to hit somebody before going into the off season. I mean, why not honor that and let them just ball out? But at the same time, you could still do the skill challenge a day later, and so
a day earlier,
and then do for say a celebrity flag football game. But then the next game is just pads on, knocking each other out, having a great time.
I mean, look, I think everybody loves that clip of Sean Taylor laying out that punter. That's
I'll throw 2 points out there before we move on. The Denver Broncos benched Russell Wilson because they didn't want him to play anymore, and possibly get injured because it was.
Well, the contract shouldn't include injuries involving the Pro Bowl. Well, that's a player's choice.
That's easier said than done.
I'm just saying. I mean, look,
I want it to happen too, but players are getting paid more not to play. Basically, players are getting paid more.
Yeah, it's true.
Players are getting paid more. Step up and pay the players that are invited to come to the Pro Bowl.
The players are getting more because they're selected to the Pro Bowl than actually what they would get from playing in the Pro Bowl.
Well, then that's a problem. That's the same problem in the NBA. Get all pro stuff, and then it affects your salary. I don't think that should be the case. I don't think any those type of awards should be incentivized or not. Okay, postseason awards should not be included in contracts, except for MVP or Defensive Player of the Year. Well, but all pro or Pro Bowl stuff shouldn't be a part of it, in my opinion.
We mention basketball on this pod sometimes. And the same thing is happening right now.
I know that's why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Yeah, players are going to miss a certain amount of games, and they're not eligible for awards. It's a slippery slope. I mean, I'm with Earl. I would love to see a real football game of the best players on defense and offense from both conferences play, but I don't think it's ever going to happen again.
Well, that's a shame then. And Roger Goodell has failed as a commissioner if that's the case.
Made the game soft.
You said it, not me. But let's go ahead and transition now to our all-time list. Now, I hope you guys, I got to pull mine up here. But we had a lot of different interesting social media reactions. And I do want to point out one thing. There was one typo on one of the graphics. And by the time it was pointed out, it was a little bit too late. Michael Strahan never played for the Washington Commanders. He played for the New York Giants. That is my bad. That is my fault. Do not blame Earl. It was his list, but I was the one that put it in the graphic. So that is my bad for the typo there. That being said, we are going to debate these lists. So We're going to start with Earl's list.
Oh, I'm honored. How you want me to start? Do you want me to
How
start
about
1 to 10 or work my way up?
Start at 10, work your way up, and then after you go through all the list, we'll comment on it, okay?
Okay, sounds good. All right, here we go. Number 10 on the all-time defenders list. I have London Fletcher,
Hey, yo,
linebacker.
let's go.
He played on the Washington Redskins, which is now the Commanders. Number 9, Sean Taylor, may rest in peace. Safety, played at Washington Commanders. Number 8, Darren Woodson, safety, with the Dallas Cowboys. Number 7, Brian Dawkins, safety, Philadelphia Eagles. Number 6, Michael Strahan, defensive end, New York Giants.
A legend.
Agreed. Number 5, DeMarcus Ware, linebacker and DN, Dallas Cowboys. Number 4, Reggie White, defensive end, may he rest in peace, Philadelphia Eagles. Number 3, Darrell Green, defensive back, Washington. Number 2, Deion Sanders, DB, played with Dallas and Washington. And my number 1, Lawrence Taylor, linebacker, New York Giants.
So here's the deal, guys. If you believe somebody's supposed to be on this list that isn't, you have to tell us who you think should be taken off the list for that person. If you are debating about order, we can definitely do that. So let me start with Mal. Do you have any objections to this list in terms of people that are or aren't on there, or the order of it?
I'm not going to lie. This is a pretty solid list, Earl. I could only imagine how hard this was to put together, considering you had every defensive position to kind of talk about there.
I had a lot of honorable mentions too.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure. And honestly, I would say, in my opinion, that's pretty spot on. I don't think you can remove anyone. I think the top 5 is perfect. And yeah, I don't have any debates to this list, Earl. I mean, I hope that you like mine too, but I doubt it. So we'll get to that next.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Mal. I'm pretty solid on the list. Now, the original list that Earl sent me was slightly different here at the end. Can I tell them, Earl?
I can explain it.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, when I was going through with the list, I thought I had like what I wanted on the list, but at the same time, I was going off how the player impacted their respective position as well as their teams. The reason why I have Lawrence Taylor at number 1 is because he changed the game and what he was able to do being a linebacker as well as being a rusher. Like, he completely changed it. I've never seen a player during that time do what this man was able to do. So
Lawrence Taylor was a total dog.
He ruined Joe Theismann's career.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
Yeah. I'll say this. I do have an exception. I think Reggie White should be 2.
Do you think he should leapfrog Darrell Green and Deion Sanders?
Yes. Darrell Green, longevity-wise, he'll always remember as one of the fastest players in NFL history. But Reggie White pretty much cemented his Hall of Fame career as an Eagle. Then he went to the Packers and won a Super Bowl, which is great for him. But Deion's best years, you could easily say, were with the Falcons.
But he won a ring in Dallas.
See, that's the tricky thing, because I use the same metric on my list as well. I did prioritize championship rings, but I had some exceptions when it came to the quarterbacks.
I was about to say, because I saw some people on your list that I'm ready to debate, but I'll wait.
Okay.
Yeah. But
I have more to that with him being not only winning the Super Bowl. He not only played DB, but he played receiver. Dallas was one of the first teams to try him out at receiver. So he was doing double duties at that time, as well as playing 2 different sports at the same time.
He wasn't playing with the Atlanta Braves when he's with the Cowboys, was he?
He played when he was towards the end of his Falcons career along with the Niners. So in between that.
So are we counting in totality their entire careers or just their careers with the NFC East team?
I was working under the assumption that it's just with the NFC East teams, but that was my thing. But if you guys decided to do that, I wasn't against that.
Yeah, I think Reggie White should be 2. And you can make an argument for 2 or 3 over Deion, because Deion was a high impact player. But he should definitely be over Darrell Green.
I don't know about that, dude. I don't know. Darrell Green, longevity.
Maurice, all I'm gonna tell you is how I designated this. I went off of impact within the teams as well as the abilities. I gave Lawrence Taylor what he had. I gave Deion what he had. I gave what Darrell had. I gave Reggie White what he had. He was the minister of defense. I put it top to bottom on what I was able to do from it. That's why it was hard, because I had to interchange some things. Can
you talk about the end of your list?
I was getting to that before Maurice cut me off.
My bad.
So basically, I was trying to add new blood into it just off of record-wise. And at that point, when I did, I kind of backtracked because I was like, I wanted this list to be true because I knew I had one of the most difficult lists to make. At first, I was either teetering between having it was like a toss between London Fletcher, then I had Deron Bland, then I had Micah, and then I was going to add in some other guys I had Brandon Graham in here, I had Jason Sehorn. I was like literally just seeing what could work in that 10th spot because I had to go by position on who I thought represented it well as just the longevity. And all of these guys had phenomenal careers, but I also wanted them to have their own respective spot in how I saw it making this list. Now, you do have an argument with Reggie White being 2. I have Deion at 2. But at the same time, it doesn't take away where I had them placed, and I respect all these players.
Of course. And real quick, I can see some Giants fans putting Strahan above Ware as well. What do you guys think?
Ooh.
That's a close one.
I think Ware has just a little bit longer longevity there. Right? Ware played more seasons, right?
He did.
Yeah, that's where I would give the edge to. Of course, then again, you could say that Strahan's the champion.
So is DeMarcus Ware.
2-time champion.
Choices.
Wait, was it 2?
Yeah.
I thought he retired after that Super Bowl.
Oh, did he?
No.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
I could have sworn he retired.
I thought. Somebody fact check us.
I got you.
It was so long ago at this point, I don't remember.
But no, I like I said, I think Earl did the best on probably the hardest list.
Yeah, he only has the one for 2008.
I'm just glad that you decided to go with London Fletcher. Give that command because no, and it's not just because he's a Commanders guy, but he has very similar stats to Ray Lewis, but yet Ray Lewis was a first ballot Hall of Famer, as he should have been. But London Fletcher's still waiting.
Making a case for a Hall of Fame.
And Lucas,
I think he should be.
That's why I had him at 10, because his stat numbers was almost like clearly identical to Ray Lewis's. I just don't understand. I guess just because of the name.
And the fact that he was on the Commanders for a long time.
Not only that, but it was also Ray Lewis with his being a leader. He was basically the floor general whenever he was on the field. So, I mean, that kind of overshadowed what London Fletcher was doing.
I mean, but you could make the case that London Fletcher never had any off-the-field issues.
I can agree with that too, but that's for another story.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not talking about Ray Lewis. We're talking about the NFC East. Anyway, so that being said, I think, Mal, you're up next. So go ahead, start from 10, work up to 1, and we'll talk about it.
Okay, so I have a feeling that Earl's going to yell at me, so I'm going to get through this as quickly as possible, and I'm going to let him share his thoughts. So, at number 10, I have Plaxico Burress, New York Giants. At number 9, I have Harold Carmichael, who played for Philly and Dallas. At number 8, I have Des Bryant from Dallas. At number 7, I have Santana Moss from Washington.
Hey.
At number 6, I have Amani Toomer from the Giants. At number 5, I have Deshaun Jackson from Philadelphia and Washington. At number 4, I have Terrell Owens from Philadelphia and Dallas. At number 3, I have Gary Clark from Washington. At number 2, I have Art Monk from Washington. And at number 1, I have Michael Irvin from Dallas.
Playmaker.
And that's why I have him at number 1. And before you guys comment, I wanted to kind of let you guys know of what metrics I went off of, because this was a pretty hard list to make too. There were really a lot of good wide receivers who deserve to be on this list.
Oh, yeah.
I went based off of reception yards, championships, and how much they really helped their team.
Okay.
I have no arguments for this list.
Okay.
I know Earl does.
I wouldn't say that. There was one player that I thought could have made the list, and that was Drew Pearson, the true 88.
That's fair.
Well, let's talk about it. Earl, if you think Drew Pearson should be on this list, who should be off of this list?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because if you want to take somebody off, you have to tell. I mean, if you want to put somebody on, you have to tell us who you're willing to take off the list.
Yeah, that's.
You take off the other 88?
I was actually thinking that.
What, Des Bryant?
Yeah, I was thinking probably Dez.
Okay.
Because I probably would. Yeah, I would have swapped with Pearson because what he was able to do at that time with Roger Staubach, that was phenomenal on his part. Like, he had to work his way to get to where he was, and he's also part co-owner of the original Hail Mary, along with winning Super Bowls in Dallas with Roger.
That's a fair argument.
But that's all I got.
I mean, so I don't have a problem with any. I mean, like I said, maybe Drew Pearson should be on this list, maybe not. I have a problem with the order, though.
Hit me.
Okay. Are we sure that Terrell, I mean, as an overall player for his overall career, yeah, Terrell Owens was better than Deshaun Jackson. But Deshaun Jackson in the NFC East.
This was my biggest debate between Terrell Owens and Deshaun Jackson and where necessarily to place them.
Because they both played for two different teams in the conference. I don't know. Somebody help me out. Maurice, he played for both of them played for your team. What do
I would say that Deshaun Jackson really was a stud on Philly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, he was a deep threat for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he played for Philly twice, actually.
He came back. That's Deshaun Jackson's calling card, was a deep threat. He was great at it. T.O. was the more dominant player, which for a shorter span of time. But T.O. he's a Hall of Famer. So I mean.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would stick with 4 there.
Yeah, I think Terrell Owens did a little more than what Deshaun Jackson did, just with him being able to create yak yards as well as being a deep threat, especially for his size. Because when you look at it between him and Randy Moss, they came up around the same time, and those were pretty much the top 2 receivers that had big bodies and considered deep threats. Yeah. Not only that, whenever the ball got in their hand, they were dangerous. So, I mean, I like where the list is with Terrell Owens being at number 4, and Deshaun Jackson is right behind him. Like, he was a deep threat, and pretty much whichever team he did go to, he made an impact in any way. So, I have no problem with it.
So, I think we could say that maybe Dez should be off this list, but besides that, 2 other things I want to ask you, Mal. How close was CeeDee Lamb to making your list?
CeeDee Lamb was very close to making the list.
Because I might have had him on my list. If
CeeDee Lamb I had as an honorable mention.
Okay.
I respect it.
And we only have Is Plaxico the only reason why he's on there is because of that Super Bowl catch?
I'm not going to lie, that was a little bit of a homer pick.
Okay, all right.
Not going to lie.
I mean, look, you have the argument with the Super Bowl. He helped win you guys a Super Bowl. That is a big impact. because
and I did think like if he didn't shoot himself, what could have happened? But yeah, that was more of a homer placement. He should have probably been more of an honorable mention, but I kind of put that catch into the consideration there.
I mean, the catch is fair. I think so. What do you guys think?
I'll allow it.
Yeah, it's fair.
Okay, so I don't know about anything about Harold Carmichael. Can anybody enlighten me about why he should be on the list? Because I've never heard of him before.
Well, we just talked about big body receivers. Harold Carmichael was like 6'8".
Big body.
Yep. He was 6'8". Good gracious.
He was freakishly tall.
Yeah, he played the Eagles in the late 70s, 80s when they went to the Super Bowl in 1980. Ron Jaworski was the quarterback. Yep. He was dominant receiver. Once again, a short, dominant career, but he was great for the time he played in.
Yeah, okay. And he was a 4-time Pro Bowler, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
So
all right.
Yeah.
That's true.
I forgot that. Yeah.
All right. Well, if we are ready to move on, I am ready to talk about my list now.
Let's do it.
Okay. So number 10 from the Philadelphia Eagles, Brian Westbrook. Number 9 on this list from the Philadelphia Eagles, Wilbert Montgomery. Number 8 from the New York Giants, Rodney Hampton. Number 7 from the Dallas Cowboys, currently playing for the New England Patriots, Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay.
Number 6 from the Washington Redskins, now Commanders, Clinton Portis. Number 5 from the New York Giants, Tiki Barber. Number 4 from the Philadelphia Eagles, LaShawn McCoy.
Shady.
Number 3 from the Washington Redskins, John Riggins. Number 2 from the Dallas Cowboys, Tony Dorsett. And number 1 on this list of the best rushers in NFC East history, Emmitt Smith. Okay, now
NFL
that I got my
all-time leading rusher.
So, that being said, and me doing my little announcer voice intro, I hope you guys enjoyed that, by the way.
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you.
It was good, sir.
Thank you. Okay, anyway, so what do we guys think about this list?
I want to.
Maurice, what is up?
I don't know about Ezekiel Elliott.
I don't know about Ezekiel Elliott either.
I'll be honest with you guys. I took the cop out on this, and I did it by total yards rushing it for their teams.
And how I did it. Their careers with that team.
Yeah, their careers with that team. And Ezekiel Elliott had the 7th most rushing yards of all time in the NFC East.
Yeah,
actually did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We do have to remember he played with the Cowboys from 2016 to 2022.
Yeah, and I think with him holding out going to Cabo, I think that really messed him up because I think he would have been on pace to get more yardage. But, I mean, can't change time.
Yeah.
But he still did earn it.
Now, I'll say this. Now, I did this with, I think with both my lists, actually, my coaches. I took into account their success in other places.
See, I didn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I focused solely on the NFC East.
Okay.
That was it.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Because you could make the argument that Portis could be higher based off his time with the Broncos.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Fair. That's fair.
But I focused solely on their teams in the NFC East. So, like I said, I think this is a pretty fair list. Is there anybody that you guys think that should be on here that's not?
Was Herschel Walker an honorable mention?
He was, but like I said, he did not. I went solely on total yards because running backs are thought of how many yards did they rush. So that's what I went there.
Yeah, I can't really argue anybody on this list then.
Yeah, I can't. All I can say with Herschel Walker, thank you for your trade contributions because you helped form a dynasty.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he would have been like the top 3 honorable mention. I just don't remember off the top of my head. I did this list a couple weeks ago. So I don't honestly.
I mean, he could have been on the list, but I like the list that you have right now.
And I think it's pretty balanced. I mean, let's see. The Eagles and the Cowboys got 3 players each, and then the Commanders and the Giants each got 2 players each. I think that's
pretty balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I don't know what it is about Cowboys running backs. We had Herschel Walker went to the Cowboys to the Eagles. We had DeMarco Murray, and I think it was one other running back. I can't think off the top of my head, but it's really weird.
Now, Mal, I don't know anything about. I mean, I looked at the stats, but can you tell me a little bit about Rodney Hampton? What do you know about him?
So he was way before my time.
Okay.
Was he on that Super Bowl team?
Yeah, he was.
When they played Buffalo?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, okay.
But he's the second most rusher for the Giants. I think that
behind Tiki, yeah.
Yeah, Tiki was fine. I don't know. I feel like
I think Tiki took over directly after Hampton, if I remember looking at the years.
Yeah, I feel like there were different, like, it does suck because, like, Brandon Jacobs and Ahmad Bradshaw did all that work for those championships.
Like, I was surprised they weren't on this list. I was just like, they didn't make the list. They didn't make Look, the NFC East has had a lot of great running backs. I mean,
when the Cowboys have Emmitt Smith and Tony Dorsett, which are like 2 of the best, you know, it's hard to follow suit from those 2 guys. But yeah, no, I think your list is completely fair based off of the rushing yards, because really what we look at for running backs is their rushing yards. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even think about touchdowns or, fumbles or Super Bowls, nothing. I mean, there are a few that definitely won Super Bowls here, a few that didn't. I mean, Shady McCoy, I know, didn't. Glenn Bordas didn't. Zeke didn't. Did Will Montgomery? I don't think so, right? No. Maurice, can you tell us a little bit about, Wilbert Montgomery. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Will Montgomery was on the same team as Harold Carmichael, went to Super Bowl in 1980. Had a big game against the Cowboys in the championship game. Yep. He was next to what's his name, Steve Van Buren, like going way back in like 1940s. He was one of the best Eagles running backs of that generation until, heck, I want to say Brian Westbrook.
Westbrook got 10th on this list. That means Will had just a little bit more yardage than Westbrook.
Yeah.
Hey, Lucas, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Did you have Ricky Waters in consideration?
There were so many names and I had to just count based off. Like I said, I didn't look too far past the top 10. Okay. Like I said, I am not. You and Maurice are more historians of this division than me and Mal are. I didn't start watching football until about 2004, 2005. So
I wouldn't have put Ricky Waters on the list. He had like one really good year with the Eagles. It was 95, 96. I wouldn't put him on top 10.
Okay. I understand. Yeah, with Tony Dorsett, when I was a kid, my family, they pretty much raised me in like learning about the Cowboys and stuff in the history. And I got a chance to see a play from Tony Dorsett where they were playing Minnesota on a Monday night game in Minnesota. And Tony Dorsett set the NFL record of 99 yards. He was the first player to do it.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay, Maurice, it's your turn, bud.
All right, so I had 2 lists. I think I'm going to start with the coaches. I'm going to save the quarterback for last.
Okay.
So, my coaches, starting with number 10, Dick Vermeil, Philadelphia Eagles.
Respect.
9, Vince Lombardi.
Interesting.
Commanders.
Wow.
They had a different name at the time, but, Commanders. Yeah. Andy Reid, Philadelphia Eagles.
Respect.
Barry Switzer, Cowboys. Doug Peterson, Eagles, at number 6. I should be saying the numbers here. Barry Switzer was number 7. Andy Reid was number 8. Doug Peterson is number 6. Number 5, Tom Landry.
Respect.
Number 4, Bill Parcells, coached the Giants and the Cowboys.
Interesting.
Number 3 is Tom Coughlin, New York Giants. Number 2, Joe Gibbs.
Ayo.
And number 1, Jimmy Johnson.
How about them Cowboys?
So let me have it. What y'all got?
All right. My only issue here is the last two. Well, mainly not even Vermeil. I think he should be on the list, but like Lombardi only coached one season with the Commanders.
I had to see with my metric. I put a little bit of prestige.
Yeah, I figured that
there's a trophy named after this guy.
That's true. That's true. But he literally just did what he was more of a front office person than a coach for the Commanders. I mean, look, I get it, and I appreciate the love for the Commanders. But if in all reality, our only really elite coach has been Joe Gibbs. I get the I might have put in Mike Shanahan before Lombardi if I'm being
really.
If we're going with actual on the field success, it's hard.
We talk about the greatest coaches in NFL history,
but we're not doing NFL history. We're doing NFC East history.
I know, but I did equate. I did have to add prestige to the coaching position as well. I think Vince Lombardi deserved. Maybe if you could make an argument, he could have been 10. I could have put Vermeil 9. That's fair, but it's Vince Lombardi. I mean, the two teams playing the Super Bowl Sunday are playing for the Vince Lombardi Trophy.
That's fair. I have
my disagreement. I would shift Barry Switzer. I would move Andy Reid up. I would move Tom Landry up.
Probably. So you would put Tom Landry above Bill Parcells.
Yes.
Interesting. Is Tom Landry ahead of Tom Coughlin in your opinion?
I believe so.
Oh.
And I'm not taking anything away from Tom Coughlin. I just know that Tom Landry, he was before Jerry Jones bought that team. He is what put the Dallas Cowboys on the map. Not only that, he created
championships.
He won 2 championships, but also led his team along with the defense in becoming the doomsday defense in the 70s when they were rivals to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which were the Steel Curtain.
Now, let me explain. Because my biggest metric for the coaches was championships, which is why I have Jimmy Johnson, Joe Gibbs above everybody else, because they have 3. So
hang on, Maurice. Earl, would you have Tom Landry above Joe Gibbs?
Do you want me to give my opinion on the list first, Lucas?
Sure. While we're waiting for Earl.
All right. So, Maurice, I mainly agree with your list. The only thing that I would do is swap Switzer and Reed, and I would swap Vermeil and Lombardi. That's it.
Okay, so this might be a hot take. And I get that you did this based off of championships, but are we sure that Andy Reid's is not a more impactful coach in the NFC East than Doug Peterson?
He won a Super Bowl. That
matters. I get that. But take away that Super Bowl, Andy Reid has a lot more on him.
Also, Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles.
Okay.
That matters.
Oh, okay. So I know what happened to Earl. His Wi-Fi went out. Welcome back, Earl.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
So answer the question, Earl. Do you think Tom Landry should be ahead of Joe Gibbs?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Earl.
It's a good question.
That's a good
Joe
question.
Gibbs has won 3.
I will put him at 3. If you're going by Super Bowl ring, I'm going off of what.
And what did Joe Gibbs do for Washington, though? He was so good that the old owner brought him out of retirement to try to resurrect the franchise.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Okay, he could have 2. I'm just going off of what I know Tom Landry was able to do, and what he was able to do. I'm giving credit where it is due. At the same time, if you want to put Tom Landry at 3, that's cool. I'm fine. I just know Barry Switzer, he got up there getting the reward from what Jerry was able to build.
Yeah.
I just don't think that he should be on the list from it.
Wow.
But,
That's an opinion I hear from a lot of Cowboys fans. They think Switcher just picked the talent that
Coattail.
the kind of
He-
talent that Jimmy Johnson
did.
had, and he's kind of overrated. Is that true, Earl?
I agree because the situation with Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson, Jerry wanted the credit, but even though he was signing the checks, and which is the credit, they viewed Jimmy as the one to assemble everything. So it was just a big old ego situation where Jerry was like, "Hey Jimmy, I can win a Super Bowl without you," and stuff like that. So he brought in Barry Switzer, and lightning in the bottle, Dallas wins the Super Bowl after they get Deion Sanders and with Barry Switzer as the coach. And from myself and what I hear from other Cowboy fans is that I believe Dallas won that Super Bowl in spite of the coaching.
Mm.
Barry Switzer was coaching to lose that game.
Yeah. So I mean, you have your opinion on where Tom Landry should be. Championships was the
I would put him at 3.
now. See, my deciding factor on Coughlin, Parcells, and Landry, who all won 2 Super Bowls. I think Coughlin had the more deserving Super Bowl simply because they beat the undefeated Patriots.
Yeah.
And then
We were
beat him
completely.
again. Then beat
Yeah,
him
they
again.
beat Tom Brady in the Belichick dynasty, and that means something to me. So I put Tom Coughlin at 3. I put Parcells at 4 because I simply think those Giants teams were really great, and he was the coach. And might chalk it up to just time and history, but I did put Tom Landry 5th in that 3 simply because he won his championships a long time ago. So that was my deciding factor.
Okay. I respect it.
All right. All right. So let's move on to quarterback.
Is this the one that you have gripe with, Lucas?
Oh yeah. But we'll wait.
Okay.
I'll wait.
All right. So number 10 for the top 10 NFC East quarterbacks of all time. Number 10, I have Dak Prescott. Uh,
Oh my God.
Sorry, I must still be getting over that cold that I had the other week.
and number 9, I have Tony Romo.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Number 8, I have Randall Cunningham.
Okay.
Number 7, I have Sonny Jurgensen.
Okay.
6, Donovan McNabb. 5, Phil Simms. 4, Joe Theismann.
Seems a little low.
We'll get to it. 3, Roger Staubach. 2, Eli Manning.
Yes.
And 1, Troy Aikman. Now, before everybody goes, my metrics for the quarterbacks were championships again, and just being a. But let me say this: championships wasn't the deciding factor because if it was just championships, I could have put Craig Morton, who was a quarterback for the Cowboys back in the day, with Tom Landry.
You didn't need to put him in there.
Yeah, but he had a ring.
I mean, you could put Nick Foles or Carson Wentz if that
I
was
could
the
have put
case.
Nick Foles. I could have put Mark Ripken and Doug Williams.
Okay, Mark Ripken. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll wait.
I could have put them in there too. But were they the top 10 most impactful quarterbacks in the NFC East? Most people say no. So go ahead. Go ahead, Lucas. What you got?
So, before you made this list, I shared with you my list because I originally tried to do this myself, but I didn't love my list. But after hearing your list, I actually like my list now. Let me go through my list because I put a lot of thought into this. Number 10, Donovan McNabb. Number 9, Randall Cunningham. Number 8, Sammy Bogg. Number 7, Mark Rypien. Number 6, Joe Theismann. Number 5, Sonny Jurgensen. Number 4, Phil Simms. Number 3, Eli Manning. Number 2, Roger Staubach. And number 1, Troy Aikman.
No, you put Mark Rip.
Mark
a Commanders
Ripken
fan,
won
Lucas.
a championship, and he was a long-term starter for the Commanders. That's why I don't have Doug Williams in here, which I know Earl has a problem with.
Not having Doug Williams in the list? Doug Williams had one good year.
He also broke the color barrier in the Super Bowl.
That's true, and that is impactful. It's
And he
most
also set
certainly
a
is.
record with the 4 touchdown passes in the Super Bowl.
So by that, you would take out. Let's
I
just.
wouldn't have put him like high. I would probably have put him at 10.
Okay, so let's just say my 10.
I gotta ask, why Tony Romo and Dak Prescott?
I was going to ask the same question.
Why?
Because Maurice is going off the impact of the division, especially.
Dak Prescott, I continuously give him credit when it's due. Dak Prescott has been a great quarterback in NFC East for many years now. And then we said on this podcast a couple weeks ago, if Dak Prescott continues statistically the way he's going, he's going to be a really great quarterback. The championships we don't know about, but statistically, he's going to be a great quarterback. But right now, we put Romo a little bit ahead of him. Did we not, Earl?
Yep.
Okay, so why didn't you include somebody like Sammy Bogg, though? He's won championships.
That's way too far back.
I don't care about far back.
Like I said with Craig Morton and championships from back in the day. It's so far back, Lucas. I mean, are we going back to the beginning of NFL history? The 1940s?
I mean, okay, so Bogg, I believe, played in the 50s.
Oh, come on,
or 60s.
I mean, come on, Lucas. Come on, man.
I'm just saying he has a championship.
I understand that too.
Yeah, come on, man.
I'm looking at the list.
This isn't just the last 30, 40 years. This is all time, gentlemen. All time.
Was it even the NFC East in the 1950s?
Okay, no, but that's not the point. He played for the Commanders. That's the point.
All right, you're being a homer. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, he's got a homer pick.
I get it. Mal, do you have any gripe with the list?
So besides what we already debated, the only gripe I would say, and I love Eli Manning through and through, I would put Roger Staubach up above.
Yeah, I had Eli number. Was it 3 or 4?
3. Yeah, I think Eli is definitely top 3, but I think Staubach gets that number 2 spot. That's just my opinion.
I'm actually surprised that you had Theismann higher than Phil Simmons.
Say it again, Lucas.
I'm surprised you had Theismann above Sims. Sims had more Super Bowls.
Now with Theismann, it was close. It was so close. I mean,
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying.
Of course you're not. You're not complaining, but it was so close. I mean, all right. Let me ask Mal. When you think of clearly, Phil Simms is your second best quarterback in franchise history.
Definitely.
Was Phil Simms dominant as a quarterback?
I wouldn't say dominant. A very good quarterback, yes. But I think those teams that he was on were just so good on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
That I think he mainly benefited from the system and the talent around him. No slack to Phil Simms whatsoever. One of my favorite Giants of all time. But I think Joe Theismann all around got, obviously his career ended by that injury from Lawrence Taylor. I think he would be way higher up if we would have maybe seen him play a little bit more. But, things happen. Hindsight's 2020.
Well, he probably would have had 2 more Super Bowl rings. But
yeah,
I will say this. What you just said about Phil Simms is how I feel about Eli.
No, you're correct, though. Eli was never dominant. In the regular season, totally totally mid. Then the playoffs would turn into a total dog and just destroy everybody.
Mm-hmm.
What was the mean Eli got? And when it came to the playoffs, he was elite.
Yeah, elite.
Mm-hmm. Well, last question here, and I'm kind of surprised. I had Randall Cunningham higher than Donovan McNabb.
Really?
Yeah, I did in terms of overall stats and just
McNabb went to 4 championship games?
And I get that. I'm not. I
think it was 3.
3. I think he went to a 4th one in 2010 when he played the Cardinals.
I don't remember.
Was it? I thought that was a bit.
2010 wasn't that when he was with us?
No. 20. I'm sorry. It was 08, I think. It was an 08 season, I think it was, when they played the Arizona Cardinals in the championship game. And the Cardinals beat them. The Cardinals went to the Super Bowl. But anyway,
I thought that was Michael. Oh, okay.
But anyway,
I
if
think
that was
McNabb would
Kevin
have won a
Powell.
Super
one
Bowl,
is going to be the most controversial one. It might not be the. I don't know. It's either quarterback or defensive players. That's the two hardest ones to pin here.
if McNabb won a Super Bowl, he would be in the top 4, top 5,
Top
for
5.
sure.
Top 5.
Top 5 for
Especially
sure.
with his numbers that he had with Philly too.
McNabb was really good.
And the longevity too.
McNabb was really good, man.
I just saw, Eagles fans loved Randall Cunningham more than Donovan McNabb.
Randall's best season was with the Vikings.
Okay.
Yeah, Moss.
Yeah.
All right.
I actually was gonna say great job to everyone with the all-time.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, this was fun.
It was a lot of fun,
It
but it
was
also
fun.
was a
We'll have
tough
to
decisions to it.
we'll have to switch it up for next off season. We'll figure out something for next off season, guys, for sure. So on that note, I think it's time for Maurice to close things out.
So I want to thank everybody for listening to 13 Rings Podcast, especially during the NFL season. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, and now iHeart. Make sure to follow us on Twitter or X, Instagram, Facebook at 13_Rings Podcast. Thank you all for listening. Until next time, have a good one.
Good night, everybody.
See you.
Blessings.